You booked it, episode 165. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. Do you want to take your career to the next level? As a listener of this podcast, I am offering you the opportunity to work one-on-one with me to build the foundation of what you need to create a successful career in today's world. Regardless if you're starting out or you've been doing this a while, I've got you covered. Look, when I entered this industry, I went to the #1 school in the USA for musical theater, graduated with an insane skill set, and zero clue about how to actually make my skills a career. I lost years of momentum because of it. Do not let this happen to you. That's why I created this podcast. That's why I'm making you this offer to coach with me. If you're interested, simply tap the link in the description of this episode and let's chat. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Brendon Hansford. Are you ready for this, Brendon?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, definitely ready.
All right, Brendon is one of the world's leading choreographers and movement directors. He has been hired to do choreography and movement for artists such as Sam Smith, Rod Stewart, Normani, and Rick Astley. He prides himself on being able to really understand the director's vision and bring it to life. Brendon has trained in and is able to choreograph in a number of different styles from hip-hop to ballet. He is literally your one-stop shop for anything dance-based. Brendon, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Well, thank you so much for the interview, buddy. It's so weird hearing your own bio back to yourself. But yeah, so I'm a choreographer, movement director full-time. I'm also a director as well, so I'm trying to push more into the directing side of things now and really focus on niching myself in the dance world. Fill in the gap. So on top of that, I'm also a photographer, videographer. I run a talent agency, a production company, a clothing brand, and also I'm opening an events company.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a little bit of a workaholic, just to say the least. But yeah, I didn't start dancing until I was like 18, 19, and I started pretty late for dancers in the world of dance, should we say. And just fell in love with it and just didn't stop, to be honest. It just kept going and going. And I was a dancer for about 8, 9 years. And then I had a crazy injury, which took me out. And I decided to turn over to be a choreographer. And I still say to this day that the weird thing is, I don't think my career started until I became a choreographer. I was always a creative. I was always creating things. I was always choreographing, running dance companies. So it seemed like the natural fit. And I was very lucky to get onto an agency called Love Rudai, who are absolutely incredible, run by a guy called Stuart Bishop. And he took me under his wing, mentored me, and the rest happened after that. And it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and I love what I do, and I just don't stop.
Yeah, brilliant. I also didn't start performing and dancing, singing, all of that till I was about 17 and a half, 18 years old. So I'm right there with you.
It's funny, isn't it? Because as a young age, I grew up in a little country town, and it was a very narrow-minded town. And I already studied art and fashion. And so already I was stigmatized and bullied a little bit for that. Imagine if I was still in that country town and I came out, hey, I'm a dancer. I actually moved away from the country town to London, the big city, when I was like 16. And probably the best move I ever made, because I'm sure you know, living in a city opposed to a very rural country town is a whole different story. And people just don't care what you do. They just let you do it.
100%. And let's move on to this first section here. And Brendon, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh, I have a few. So I'm going to give you my two favorite. Okay. So my first one is stay
Perfect.
true to yourself and others, and the rest will follow. And my other one is make as many mistakes as possible because you'll learn faster.
Oh, both really great quotes. And can you expand on both of them a little bit on how they've worked their way into your career?
Yeah, for sure. The stay true to yourself is know your goals, know your passions, know what you want to do, and stick to that. Niche yourself if you wanted to take it into the business sense. And really get laser focused on what you want to do. Stay true to what you do, and others, meaning respect others, be humble, be nice. And and the rest will follow. As long as you can stick to those rules, it might not happen overnight, but by sticking to those rules, you will bump into the right people. You will find people who are on a similar wavelength or a similar vibration, and will definitely want to help you. And then you can help them back when you get to your place. And make mistakes. Now, I think this is really limited to the dance world, because the only way to improve as a dancer is to make mistakes. It's impossible not to improve at making mistakes. Because when you were training back in the day, you would go to the studio and you would fail and you would fail and you would fail and you would fail and you fail, and then you get it right. Because each time you failed, you learned from it, and you were like, oh, I didn't do that, or I didn't do this, or I had to hold my shoulders back, I had to hold my core more. And I've learned by the just do it. One, that's a great thing because it puts you in action. And as you probably know, the only way to achieve things is to take action. So by being in action, you're doing stuff. Okay, you make a mistake here and there, but you go, that didn't work. Let me try it this way. Obviously, there are points of things you can't make mistakes on, like when millions of pounds are on the line. Do it beforehand, practice stuff, run drills, run a recce, do as much as you can beforehand to make those mistakes before you get to those big days on shoots and stuff like that. But yeah, make as many mistakes as possible, and you will learn faster.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, especially when people get to training programs, especially if you're to go to, say, a performing arts training program, that sometimes you feel a lot of pressure that school or your training is a performance, and it's not. It is really there for you to fail and to try things, and that's why you're there, right? You're not in the real world yet in those scenarios, and I think sometimes as students, we can lose sight of that occasionally, but to always stay focused on the fact that, hey, you're there to train, you're there to improve your skills, so this is the time to fail.
Completely. And you've caught me on quite a passionate subject of mine, is education. I run a youth dance company. I teach classes in London at Base Dance Studios and Pineapple Dance Studios. And there's a lot of things I've seen change over the last 17 years I've been in this industry. Is one, people come to class like it's a performance now. They don't come to train anymore. They all want that Instagram video. They want that social content that they can put out and boost their popularity online, which is great. Don't get me wrong. And someone like myself who's got a big following, I don't want to be too hypocritical here, but go to train. And then colleges. I don't know what it's like over there, but in England, in my opinion, so this is not facts, it's my opinion, is that a lot of them are quite out of date with what's really going on in the world right now. And these poor students come out and graduates come out and speak to people like me, and they don't know how to find work. They know how to dance. They've been trained to dance, which is great. But the world's completely changed. You can't show up with your CV and your photo anymore. You have to have a background. You have to have a social presence. You have to have a website, pictures, video. All these branding aspects and entrepreneurial aspects that are so key these days to get ahead of the thousands of people that are dancing, that it's just not being taught. And then on another subject behind that is the educational side. Is you're right, there's so much pressure at college to be the best in a college. And the scary thing, that doesn't even match up to the pressure that you're going to get in an audition in the real world. So it's like a slap in the face when you come out, and getting rejection probably, 50 times in a month and only getting one job. That can do a lot of damage to people's mental health. And I just don't think students and graduates are prepared enough at the early levels of education to accept that rejection and really deal with that rejection and grow thick skin, shall we say, before they're released into the world. It's almost like, happy clappy, let's go to dance college and let's dance. Yay, I graduate. And then, oh God, what do I do now? I thought I just, apply to an agent and they take me. So yeah, it's quite a passionate subject of mine. I've actually got a documentary out called Building a Dancer on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. And it's all about taking one dancer who was an incredible dancer, but just didn't have that break, couldn't quite get a step up in the industry. And I gave her all the branding skills she needed, entrepreneurial skills and networking skills she needed to get a little bit further in the industry. And it's funny because it took a month and about £2,000 to brand her, prepare her, and then she hasn't stopped working since. And she was ready to give up and pack it all in, all because she wasn't taught these skills. And it's scary because it took a month. You're at dance school for 3 years. So yeah, it's a big passion of mine, and I'm already looking for the follow-up documentary. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I'm so glad that you talked about that and hit on that, because that's a big reason why I even started this podcast in the first place, was to have the discussions about the stuff that actually creates a long-term career in this industry. Because just having the skill set, that's just your jumping off point, right? once you get into the professional world, everybody can dance, everybody can act, everybody can sing. That's just the baseline that gets you into the room. And it's all the other things that surround that, from, like you said, the entrepreneurial things, the business side of things, the branding sides of things that are so important and integral in today's world to make this career work for you.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with the time we're in right now with COVID, like raging at the world, you're not even getting in the room anymore. I run an agency, as I told you, and I give a lot of advice to the people that we bring on. And there's a lot of people we can't take on who are amazing dancers because they haven't quite got the right branding. So basically photos, video, maybe website if they can afford it. And what I try and get in their heads is stop listening to what they told you at college. You must have a showroom, must have a picture. Doesn't matter what it looks like, just have one. No, that's actually really bad advice, because give you an example. We put out a job and we were looking for about 4 people for a commercial while I was filming. And we had about 800 applicants and we couldn't see them because we're in COVID times.
Gee.
I know. And it's crazy. So that's 800 people I have to sort within 2 or 3 hours. And we've asked them to send a photo and a show reel. So obviously the first thing you do is you look straight at the photo. Do they fit the brief? Yes, great, keep them. And then cut that down and say you've got rid of half. You've now got 400. Let's go back through them. Okay, does she look right or he look right for the part? Great, let's look at the show reel. Now, if the show reel is bad and it's filled the first 10 seconds with their name or the first 20 seconds with the pictures I've already seen in the email, I've already gone off it because I haven't got time. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you haven't put the right thing in front of me to grab me, and this is one of my biggest things, being a director especially, is dancers, not all dancers, but a lot of dancers don't have the information to go, I shouldn't be thinking about I've got to have this stuff. I should be thinking about the things that are going to get me the client. So having a show reel that's full of class footage, really bad grade, lots of grain, square, portrait, vertical, whatever you want to call it, is bad because it's going to get you taken off the list. Whereas if you had no show reel, there's no reason to take you off the list. I've just seen your amazing photos. Okay, they're amazing. She's got no show reel, but she still looks great. We'll keep her on. Rather than, amazing photos. And then they look at the video and go, oh, that's terrible. Get rid of it. Because when it comes down to it, if you're only looking for 4 people and I've spent 2 hours getting it down to 100 people and I only need 4, then I'm genuinely just looking for reasons to get rid of people. So I'm not going, who do I like the most anymore? I'm going, who has got a fault somewhere? Whose show reel is bad? Who hasn't put time? Who hasn't signed their email off properly with a nice signature? Who hasn't given the correct details that we've asked for? So it becomes a flip game where you start looking for reasons to get rid of people rather than looking for reasons to keep people. And that's where I think dancers need to really understand the side of branding, is you're better off having nothing than something to get yourself rejected from the job, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And everyone listening, please go back and listen to that again. And let's move on to this next section here. And Brendon, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
That's actually a really, really good question, because I suppose a lot of people would turn around now and say the rejection, that side of things. But for me, it's people. It's quite a negative thing to say, but it's really hard to know who to trust. And I've trusted the wrong people over the years and fallen from a great height because of it. And from that, my emotional state was battered, shall we say. I won't obviously name names, but there are people that I've got super close to and in the industry, and then out of nowhere, I've been ghosted, as I suppose is the new word that kids use these days. But it has such a impact on your confidence, and that's where it really kind of messes with you. Your self-esteem drops. Suddenly, you don't think you're good enough. You're now questioning everything. You're reluctant to put stuff out, and then you almost become a perfectionist, which we all know perfection is the quickest way to die. Not literally, but career-wise, because you never put anything out, so nothing ever happens. But yeah, for me, it's definitely knowing who to trust. And at the ripe old age I am now, I feel like I've got a really good radar. It's still people slip through the net and you don't quite know the best route to take sometimes. And that's been the hardest obstacles for me, is knowing who to trust, because I came into the industry like everybody else, very naive, very trusting, happy to try everything. And sometimes you've just got to really have your wits about you and be a bit more protective about yourself and your art and your talent.
Great advice. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
Oh, God, really good question. I honestly don't think I've had one of them. I just got into it and loved it. And I don't think I ever looked back. I still remember walking past Pineapple Dance Studios and looking through the window and just seeing all these sweaty people doing something. And I was like, that is so cool. And I was just, I want to do that. I really want to do that. It's just, it blew my mind. And I went to class and struggled, met some really lovely people along the way that kind of helped me out and put me in the right direction. But I don't think I ever had that moment where I was like, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Maybe that was it. I literally saw it through the window and was like, I'm going to do that. And that was it. I think I was just hooked. It should have found me a lot sooner, I think, in life, because after that, I don't think I slept. I literally lived and breathed dance and choreography and the art forms of it. So yeah, maybe that was my moment, but it hasn't really stuck out until I started speaking about it to you. So yeah, there you go. My moment was literally the first moment I looked through the dance class window and was like, wow, that's awesome.
Oh, brilliant. Love that. And let's piggyback on that real quick and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the audition and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. But what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
I've got to say Sam Smith. Like, honestly, it was as a choreographer, not as a dancer. So I was actually technically a movement director on that. So there was another choreographer that was working with Normani, and I was choreographing Sam Smith, but I was the overall movement director as well. So I was writing the brief for all the movement for everybody. So I was a jack of all trades on that. And I still remember getting the call from my agent at the time. And they were like, Brent, I've got some really bad news for you. Like, yeah, you're doing Sam Smith's next music video. And I was like, whoa, what? And I remember trying to keep the excitement down and then just like running around the flat doing the happy dance, which every dancer knows the happy dance. And then, yeah, I got to work with the director that I'd worked with before, Born I Now, who's an absolutely incredible director. He's done all the big names here in the UK and abroad. And we work really well together. We've got a really lovely balance between what we do. And he's great because he allows me to roll with it a little bit and then knows when to pull the reins at the same time. And yeah, it was great. We got to develop it. I got to write the brief for the movement. And then on the day, Sam Smith is lovely. Like, he is such a nice guy. Literally, we were just chatting around all day and just telling jokes and having a laugh. And I still remember the most iconic moment on set. I was stood outside under the shelter because it was raining, being in England, and I'm having a cup of tea out of a plastic cup with Sam Smith. So that was definitely a booked it moment and a like, wow, this is just a surreal moment.
Yeah, that is so cool. And what was the music video that you were working on?
It was Dancing with a Stranger.
Ah, beautiful.
So look it up.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've seen it, but for everyone who hasn't,
boom,
check it out. Yes. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And we talked about it a bit. We are amidst this crazy global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Okay. So first off, obviously, I had a lot of work booked before the first lockdown. And it was actually going to be one of the busiest few months I've had in a while. So I was really excited about it, to the point where I went to Thailand for a couple of weeks beforehand to just like enjoy myself first, and then had to fly home super early because of the pandemic. And then I got back, and one by one the emails started coming in. Obviously, this job isn't going to happen. We'll let you know, which is, no one ever says it's put off, it's on this date. We'll let you know. And I haven't heard any of them since. But you have the first sort of 2 weeks of, oh my God, what the hell do I do now? Everything's gone. I'm used to working 24/7, and suddenly everything's stopped. And it was a bit of a shock for me. I'm not going to lie. I was just a bit like, God, what do I do? What do I do? And then my brain kicked into gear and creativity started happening. And I used to run an agency years ago called Infinity 8. And I always said that I was going to eventually reopen it, but it just wasn't the right time for me. So I was like, why not? So I started by reopening my agency, which is BH Creative. That then turned into a production company because I got offered a directing job straight after the lockdown had ended. So I had to create some incredible little short social content adverts for a building company, but they wanted something a little bit different, and they wanted dancing, and they wanted all this sort of stuff. So suddenly I created a production company and brought a team in. And I was already teaching, so I was like, how is my teaching going to get involved in this? So I opened something called BH Academy. And then I actually opened a clothing label underneath BH Academy, which didn't really work. So I changed the name to Empower Clothing. So MPOWA. And the idea is when you say it, it sounds empower, like empowering people. So it became a label that was designed to empower the dance community. And it's just got cool little slogans on it. Like, you're the best. No, it hasn't got that one. But it's got one more time, the greatest lie told. Know yourself, know your worth, make mistakes, my favorite saying. And then I met an amazing person called Keone as well, who I'm now working side by side. And she's also an events organizer. So we've decided to open an events company called Redbox Dance. It's actually Redbox Events, but we're focusing on dance right now. So suddenly all these things appeared. And I just haven't stopped working since. I don't think I've left the computer or the studio or Zoom or whatever is going on that day since probably the first month into lockdown. Oh, and also I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be eventually, when I can, travel the world and teach workshops in as many different countries as possible while also building the business. So yeah, I just got into action and just went, screw it. Like, what else is happening right now?
Brilliant.
And this is what I try and put into people's brains when I get to speak to people who are struggling, is when do you ever get a time like this in life where there is no pressure to get work because no one's working and you've got all the time in the world to create whatever the hell you want? It just never happens. So use it. Don't waste it. That's my advice to everybody.
Brilliant advice, and amazing that you've accomplished so much in such a short amount of time. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Go.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't very good. I was too old. I don't know. I can't think. You've got me.
Brilliant. Yep. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Take action. Stop thinking about it. Just do it.
Yes. Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
My Mac. Constantly. That's what's working for me.
Yes. Yep, right there with you. And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, maybe a YouTube video, podcast, or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now?
That's a really good question. I'd have to actually go with my best friends. I'll be honest. They are my best resource. They are the best bouncing wall possible, and they keep me going when things are getting hard.
Brilliant. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would not take no for an answer.
There we are. Last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you would like to leave with our listeners?
Branding, and look after your mental health just as much as you do your body.
And to wrap up this baby, Brendon, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah, just get hold of me on Instagram. It's Brendon_Hansford. Follow my YouTube channel, which is just Brendon Hansford. They're the two main ones that I use. And obviously check out my clothing label, empowerclothing.com. And buy a t-shirt if you can. I think there's actually a code you can use. No, if you go to the website and put your email in, you can get 10% off your first order. So head over there and do that, and plug. Building a Dancer is my documentary. It's free on Amazon Prime. So if you head over to there, you can watch it for free. I think that's everything.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have put everything that Brendon just talked about into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with him. And also be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in the entertainment industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything Brendon just dropped today in this interview. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next guest. Brendon, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
No, thank you so much for having me on, buddy. Thank you for inviting me. It was great. I loved it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you.